Good evening, everybody. At the onset, I'd like to thank Dr. Jasuja and team Avtar for giving me this opportunity to talk about this unique learning experience from this COVID-19 pandemic. It has taught several things, and telenephrology, I think, is one such thing. And I'm sure many of us will be practicing this. So I'll look at the definition. I'll share with you our experience during lockdown, some practical tips, pitfalls, and then the take-home message. Well, the word telemedicine literally translates into healing at a distance. And this is what the American Telemedicine Association calls this. It's a natural evolution of healthcare in the digital world. And WHO has got a more complicated definition. But let's quickly move on because of constraints of time to the top. Now, as the world comes to term with this COVID-19 pandemic, businesses are finding best possible ways to work efficiently from home, and service providers are turning to more sustainable ways to provide the services at the doorstep. The healthcare fraternity is also adapting quickly to the idea of providing healthcare without people having to visit the clinic or the hospital. Since there was a complete lockdown, I think everybody is. Now, going back to the history of telemedicine in India, the telemedicine activities were first initiated in 1999 in SGPJ under the leadership of Professor S.K. Mishra, our senior colleague, and I was one of the founding members of the Telemedicine Society of India, and Professor Amit Gupta is there. He too was there at those meetings. We started regular tele-healthcare and tele-educational services for postgraduate students of Medical College of Odisha. The ISRO made a modest beginning with a telemedicine pilot project linking Chennai's Apollo Hospital with a Chittoor village in Chittoor district in Andhra Pradesh. But at that time, I think there were several limiting factors. One was the immense cost of infrastructure, in which we found it very difficult to, recover, especially from SGP. We did get a grant initially. The second was more over the last couple of years, there were some regulatory issues, including legal judgments delivered by the courts, which brought this whole practice into question. There is experience from technologically advanced countries like US, Australia, and Canada, where sparse populations over large geographical isolated areas. I was fortunate to have experience with this modality during my fellowships in Australia at the Royal Children's Melbourne and in Canada at Hospital for Sick Kids Toronto, where our nephrotic clinic was actually virtually managed on a telemedicine basis by a specialist nurse and a nephrology fellow. In India, there is no previous documented experience, including other developed countries, with telenephrology. This is a study from Australia, 6,000 consultations over 2.5 years, a retrospective study. Surgeons, nephrologists, health staff, and nurses were able to use the technology successfully. They could do routine outpatient consultation, they could monitor infections in dialysis units, and they could also triage patients to operate. In Canada, it's being used for monitoring patients on dialysis. In USA, a kidney stone tele-urology program revealed a high satisfaction rate of 93% and no published experience from our country. Now, things have changed radically over the last few months. The telemedicine was granted legal sanction by the Medical Council of India. Health insurance companies also made teleconsultation reimbursable. The widespread smartphone penetration makes it possible to deliver teleconsultation through cell phone based applications in our country. And this is from Pacto. I picked up 50 million Indians accessed online healthcare between March and May 2020. 500% increase in the e-consults, and in-person doctor visits, not surprisingly, were down by 67%. And even more interesting I found was that 80% of telemedicine users were experiencing it for the first time. There's a survey I did on Practo, and I found this was done among nephrologists. There's a survey a zonal survey that we are also attempting, and in the ISN, all the 4 zones. I request all of you to give your feedback. And 71% in that survey, 71% nephrologists admitted that they were using telemedicine in nephrology. So what I'm going to share with you is a single center prospective study to look at the feasibility, acceptability, and effectiveness of telenephrology services for regular follow-up, as well as for triaging patients for admission in a setting of a country-wide lockdown. The study period was 23rd March to 31st May. Patients were informed of the availability of telenephrology services through text messages from patient database, as well as through social media like Facebook and WhatsApp. The data was stored in electronic medical records using the HealthPlex platform. A combination of a WhatsApp and an EMR database was used to provide telemedicine services. Formatted messages were sent to the patients requesting for information on details, symptomatology, weight, vital signs, blood pressure records, as well as current and previous investigations and treatment. The data was entered in the EMR and electronic prescription was generated, which was emailed to the patient or sent by WhatsApp as per patient preference. And at the end of e-consult, the patient was asked to rate his experience in terms of satisfaction on a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being totally unsatisfied and 10 being excellent, fully satisfied. So during this period, we did 477 consults. 466 were domestic, 11 were actually international. There were 193 females. As I said, 271 of these patients were from India, 6 were our international patients for post-transplant follow-up. And as you can see, the ages range from a 2-month-old child to a 94-year-old lady with chronic kidney disease, 61 children, 216 adults. 476 of them opted in. Only one patient refused that, and he was an elderly gentleman who was not using a smartphone, not comfortable at all with either WhatsApp or email, and this patient was called to our outpatient clinic. So out of these 476 e-consults, 459 could be successfully managed with telenephrology only. 17 were triaged to an admission, and one patient who was one of the first consultations that we were advised to come for an OPD evaluation. But as you can see, majority were, in this phase of lockdown, was successfully managed at home. And these are the top 5 reasons to consider telemedicine: better access, cost effective, convenience, there is a millennial demand, and there is reduced absenteeism. And avoiding a trip to healthcare center has major benefits. It's time saving, both for the patient as well as the healthcare professional, avoiding the unnecessary risk of infection during this COVID-19 pandemic, possibility of connecting the doctor with it, irrespective of the location, time zone, or availability at the center. So from the comfort of your home too, and the patient could be within the country or outside. Patients who are old, too old, unable to travel, immunocompromised, especially our transplant patients, they are ideal for this. Those who are quarantined at home, so your COVID-19 patients or some other infection, availability of expert advice and opinion to those living in remote areas, because travel was a big issue during this time, and it saves costs for both health professionals as well as the patient. The patient often ends up spending more on travel-related costs than on the physician's consultation. Different methods, and you could do an audio call. All of us have been doing that for years together, but there are serious legal issues with this. Text, again, WhatsApp, but again, legal issues. Hybrid, so you could combine an electronic medical record with WhatsApp, as I have done, or you could use telemedicine platforms. One of the issues with telemedicine platform is that a significant number of our rural patients were not comfortable with this. And setting up an online platform is now very easy. It does not involve the complex hardware or resources. It has benefits for doctors, increased earnings, new patients, better clinical outcomes, and at the same time, enhanced patient satisfaction, improves the doctor-patient relationship, improves tracking of health. For the patients, better access, especially in underserved areas, from home, the comfort of his bedroom, and convenience. Reduced costs, as I said, in terms of stay and transport and time, early diagnosis, detection of complications, higher compliance, and education reminders. Especially pediatricians have been using it for vaccination reminders, and we can also use it for transplant patients for monitoring of various drug levels, as well as, and it supports lifestyle management also. And this is a study actually which was done in 2014, prior to this COVID-19 pandemic in US, looking at the impact of telemedicine, and 90% of the healthcare leaders were actually that point already developing or implementing telemedicine technology. 64% were using telemedicine programs for remote monitoring. 35% of the employers with on-site facilities currently were offering telemedicine services. Another 12% were planning to do it within the next 2 years. 91% of the health outcomes were as good or as better via telehealth. 50% of the healthcare leaders said that improving the quality of care was their priority for implementing telemedicine. US 64% of them were willing to have a video visit with the doctor. And the factors spurring the telemedicine adoption were continuous rise of healthcare consumerism, consumer expectations for convenience, shifting revenue models that reward value, and most important, which is also very valid for our country, ubiquitous and affordable mobile broadband application. Benefits of increased healthcare, reduced costs, improved healthcare outcomes, and fewer in-person consultations. Pitfalls are there? Certainly. Well, it's time taking. So do tell your patient in advance that this is the duration of call, because the patient is in his bedroom and sometimes they tend to go on and on. Also, you should try and get your data in advance, and your assistant could probably key in your secretary so that you can save on time. It does infringes on priority, and I've had teleconsultation requests coming in at 9:30, 10. So we do like your clinic timings. You do need to inform the patients in advance that these are the timings, and also tell them that it is not an ATM, not anytime medicine. It has to be during this. The timings have to be respected. If it's a first consultation, I think these patients should be immediately asked, to come to the outpatient clinic, and or preferably a detailed video consultation to avoid any errors. Medical legal issues, well, document the same rules apply as for your outpatient clinic consultation. So documentation is very important. Maintain keeping of records. You need to keep them for 3 years. And there should be also a disclaimer, as was highlighted very well in one of the seminars that was conducted by Delhi Nephrology Society for legal protection. And there remain payment issues. And if you're using one of the telenephrology platforms, then these are overcome. But you have to be careful in choosing a platform. I remember one telemedicine platform which was being offered free by a pharmaceutical company, but actually it was being offered by that 1mg, which is a popular brand. So, your database becomes accessible. You make sure that could be accessible to various people. And a few years back, Practo was in the news where they were offering databases to rivals at a cost. So you have to be careful. Read the small print very carefully. Take-home messages. Telemedicine, in our experience, offered a viable modality for delivery of nephrology services during lockdown. When access to healthcare was restricted, we were actually able to diagnose COVID-19 infections in quite a few patients. It's a model which is valid for several developing countries where access to specialty will remain restricted because of the ongoing pandemic. And beyond the pandemic also, it provides a model which can be replicated by physicians in other specialties as well as by organizations to expand and improve the practice of telenephrology for patients in remote areas, as well as some of our transplant patients who are overseas where access to specialty care is limited.